late 1971, the FBI sent a list of the ransom serial numbers to every financial institution, casino, racetrack, and other place with large cash flows, as well as to law enforcement agencies around the world. Northwest Orient offered a reward ranging from 15% of the remaining money found up to a maximum of $25,000. In early 1972, U.S. Attorney General John Mitchell released the list to the public. In 1972, two men used counterfeit $20 bills printed with the serial numbers from Cooper's ransom to con $30,000 from Newsweek reporter Carl Fleming in exchange for an interview with the fictitious Cooper. In early 1973, when the entire ransom money was still unaccounted for, the Portland, Oregon Journal republished the entire list of ransom serial numbers and offered a $1,000 reward to the first person to turn the money into the newspaper or any FBI facility. In Seattle, the Post-Intelligencer made a similar offer, offering a $5,000 reward. The offer was valid until Easter 1974, and although there were a few close matches, no money matching the serial numbers was ever found. In 1975, Northwest Orient's insurance company, Global Indemnity Company, with an order from the Minnesota Supreme Court, paid $180,000 in insurance to the airline. In 1976, a controversy arose over the statute of limitations for the hijacking. Most legal analysts agreed that it made little difference, let alone that it might not advance the investigation, that interpretations of the statute were so varied and specific that they could be discerned from case to case and court to court, and that investigators could argue about whether Cooper had a chance to be excused on some valid legal basis. The question was resolved in November when a grand jury returned an indictment in absentia of John Doe, also known as Dan Cooper, for hijacking and violating the Hobbs Act. The indictment stated that the investigation could continue and that, if possible, the defendant could be arrested and prosecuted at any time in the future. In 1978, a flyer containing instructions for opening the 727's in-flight stairwell was found by a deer hunter near a trail, about 13 miles, 21 kilometers, east of Castle Rock, Washington, far north of Lake Merwin, but in the flight path of Flight 305. In February 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram, vacationing with his family on the Columbia River about 9 miles, 14 kilometers, downstream from Vancouver, Washington, and about 20 miles, 32 kilometers, southwest of Ariel, discovered 3 bundles containing ransom money, badly damaged and melted, but still held together by rubber bands, while he was scraping the sandy riverbank to build a campfire. FBI technicians confirmed that the money was indeed part of the ransom, with 2 bundles containing 120s each, and a third bundle containing 90 bills, all in the order in which the ransom money was presented to Cooper. The discovery sparked much speculation and ultimately raised more questions than it answered. Initial statements by investigators and scientific advisors suggested that the bundles of notes were floating freely down the Columbia from one of its many ransom tributaries. A hydrological study by the U.S. Army Engineering Company found that the notes were rounded edge and stuck together, indicating that they had been dissolved by external forces, in this case, by the river's current, as opposed to being buried in sand near the riverbed. If so, it confirmed that Cooper did not land near Lake Merwin or any other part of the Lewis River, since the Lewis joins the Columbia well downstream from where the ransom notes were found, and it is believed to be additional evidence for several theories, see late developments above, that Cooper's landing site was near the Washougal River, which joined the Columbia River upstream from where the coins were found. Numerous alternative theories have been proposed. Some suggest that the bills were found elsewhere by an unidentified person, or possibly even a wild animal, brought to the riverbank and buried there. It is also possible that the money was found on the riverbank earlier, perhaps during dredging, but was buried in the sand. The Cowlitz County Sheriff suggested that Cooper accidentally dropped some of the bills on the plane's stairs, which were blown out of the plane when Cooper jumped and landed in the Columbia River. A local newspaper editor theorized that Cooper, knowing he would never be able to spend the bills, threw them away or buried them himself on the riverbank and possibly elsewhere. None of these theories satisfy all the evidence. The bills continue to defy all natural explanations as to how they arrived in Tannabar. In 1981, a human skull was found on the same riverbank where the coins were found during an excavation to find more evidence. Forensic pathologists concluded that the skull belonged to a woman, most likely of Native American ancestry. In 1986, after a lengthy negotiation, the recovered bills were divided equally between Ingram and Northwest Orient's insurance company. The FBI seized 14 of the bills as evidence. Ingram sold 15 of his bills at a 2008 auction for $37,000. To date, none of the remaining 9,710 bills have been found anywhere in the world. Their serial numbers remain online for public reference. In 1988, an unknown parachute was recovered from the bottom of the Columbia River, the same stretch of river where the notes were found. But FBI experts determined that it could not be Cooper's parachute. In 2008, a group of children found another parachute near Amboy, Washington, 6 miles south of Lake Merwin, which was later proven to be of World War II and military origin. The ransom notes recovered from the Columbia River and the instructions for opening the plane's stairwell remain the only two pieces of solid evidence from the hijacking ever found outside the plane. In early July 2016, the FBI closed its investigation into Cooper's case, citing immediate priorities, but stressed that the case file remained open. The Bureau is still calling for and expecting to receive additional evidence in the case, especially regarding the parachute and the missing portion of the ransom money. And this is also a case that has not been solved to this day. Dan Cooper became the thief of the century that the FBI has not been able to catch.